Hi everyone. In this lecture, we will discuss how to implement a linked list and we will see two methods, insertion and print. So first of all, I need to define a node class and here I define int data and node star next, and we can also define a public constructor. So I can say, okay, whatever data I get, I can say data equals data, and if you're using the same name, here you should use this, and this refers to this is a pointer which refers to the current node object, and if you're accessing some property, then you should use a arrow. Okay, for example, this points to the current node. Okay, so if you want to access this data property, you will write this arrow data. So that's all, and next should be set to null. And one more thing I'm doing for these problems, I'm making these data members as public because in quotients, in functions, we need to change these data members. The ideal way would be we can create getter and setter functions. For example, I can say there is a function node star uh, get next. Okay, so we can create a function like this, or we can say int get data. Similarly, we can create setter functions where we can return data. So this is an ideal way, but just to keep the code simpler, we are making these variables publicly available to other helpful functions that we will create for the linked list. Okay, so now this is a node class, and now we have the data type ready. Now we can work on creating a linked list. So what we need to do, we can create a pointer to the head, so node star head. So this can be null by default, or maybe we can say so yeah, this is null by default, so maybe we can create a method that inserts data into this linked list. Okay, so this I can say void insert at head. So this is a method. This method is going to accept the head of the linked list, so I can say node star and head, and I also get the data that I want to insert. Okay, now what may happen is I'm passing this head object by reference, because if I don't pass it by reference, the changes will not be reflected inside main. Okay, so this is a pointer variable, so we are actually passing an address by reference. Okay, so that's why we have a and here. So if you don't pass in this and, then what is going to happen, you will have a head here, this is null, and then you pass this head, so this is also another head. Okay, so this is actually null when you pass, and maybe you make some changes and you write this value as abc, but these changes will not reflect here because we are not passing it by reference. So it's important in those functions where you are updating the head, either you should return the value or you should pass it by reference. So what I can do, check if head is null. That means there is no such node in the linked list till now, so I can say head will point to a new node with data equals data, and I can simply return. Otherwise, what we can do, otherwise we can say, let's create a new node. I can say node star n equals new node whose data is data, and I can say n arrow next is head, and head equals n. So let me just tell you what we have done. So here we said, okay, the head pointer is null, so let us create head pointer point to a new node. So this is a new node that is created. Let's say this data is 1, but next time head is this, head is pointing to this node, so head will not be null. So I call the insert function again and I say, okay, let's insert a 0. So I create a new node whose data is 0, and that address is stored inside a variable, pointer variable n, and I say n arrow next equals head. So in the next of this, I put whatever is stored in head, and I say, okay, head you should point to n. So head is now pointing to this particular node. This is how insertion at head is going to work. So let us make few function calls here. So I can say insert at head, and I can give the head, and maybe I can give 4. So here I can give 4 3 2 1, and 0, and I can build the code, but we won't see anything because we have not printed the linked list. Okay, so the next step would be to print this particular linked list. So how we can do it? Again, it's very simple. We can create a print method. So I can say void print linked list, and here I will pass in the head. Now you can pass it by value or by reference if you're not changing it. So I will pass it by value. So what I can do, I can say while head is not null, what I do, I print whatever data is at head, and I put an arrow here, and I go to the next node. So I can do head equals head arrow next, and that's it. And here I put an handle, and I can say print linked list. So now you may ask, does this function, does this print function, will it change the actual head of the linked list? The answer is no. We are passing by value. Okay, so the actual head, this is the linked list, it's in the dynamic memory. The actual head is pointing to this one. So when you're passing this to a function, we are creating a copy, okay, the head, and this copy is going to move forward. So I say print head data, so maybe this data is 1, I print it, I go to next node, so head comes here, then head comes here, then head comes here, and finally when I do head equals head arrow next, it goes to null. It takes a null value, and once it is null, the while loop stops and we are out of the loop. So this is how the entire linked list will get printed. So let me show it to you, and let's see. So I'm going to run this code, and you can see we are able to get this particular linked list. So this is how insertion at head works, and that's what for this lecture.